Podcasting is more than just talking. It's listening. BSing with Bob Schmidt.
Mother, wife, entrepreneur, and author Megan Smith Gill wrote the book Give a Shift. When I first saw the book on the shelf, I thought it said give a, well, it rhymes with my last name, Schmidt. Glad to see that extra F in there. Megan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bob. Thanks so much for having me today.
You know, I've been full of shift myself over the years. How did you come up with your playful title?
You know, the book is a story of self-transformation. And really, when someone is looking to take their life to the next level, it really is a double entendre, right? You really do have to shift your way of thinking and shift away from many of your old beliefs to allow the transformation to occur. But you have to really also give the four other words, because you have to care so deeply that you actually give SHIT in order to make something bigger happen with your life.
Right. So did you take any guff for having the name like that from a publisher or any people that may have read the book?
No, you know what, to be honest with you, I've gotten nothing but positive feedback. That was one of my concerns coming out of the gate, but I thought, you know what, I'm going for it because it speaks the truth and it also speaks to who I am. And it definitely separates my information from every other personal development coach out there. And so I've actually had a lot of fun and really great positive reaction. I mean, just like you and I are joking now, that's exactly what happens every time the book is a topic of conversation.
You know, it's funny because I do the same thing. I play off the BS and the BSing with Bob, and it could stand for bull shifting, if you will, or it could stand
totally
for
you
know, bologna sandwich.
You can borrow it anytime.
Beer stool. It can stand for a lot of different things. That's for sure. So how do we give a shift?
That's a great question. So my story is one that is where I am my own first student. So I am an entrepreneur through and through. I own a marketing agency, and for my whole life as a woman in business, I chased success. I chased success based on what society tells us success looks like. And society tells us that success is based on what we have, what we do, and what other people think about us. And so for my entire life, I believed those myths and lived my life according to wanting to achieve that mirage of what society tells us success is. And it reached a point where I was working 80 hours a week, traveling all over the place. And on the outside, I appeared to have what seemed to be an ideal life, an amazing husband, 2 small children, a successful business that I grew to 7 figures in 18 months. The problem is that I was sacrificing my life for a paycheck. And one day when my younger daughter was 3, she came home from preschool, and it was around Mother's Day. And, they always ask the questions. You draw a picture of your mom and, what does your mom do and what does she look like and all of these things. And when it came down to what does your mom do for work, my 3-year-old said, my mommy is away and sleeps in hotels.
Really?
And it was at that moment, Bob, that literally brought me to my knees. And I asked myself 3 questions. I said, if I die tomorrow, will I be confident that I made a difference in this world, that my life mattered, and that I lived a life to the fullest? And I brutally answered those questions with a unanimous no. Mm-hmm. And I knew it was right then and there that I had to do something to transform my life. And so I went out on a personal quest to find out, who I was and what I was really put on this earth to do. It was a very private journey, Bob. I didn't really share this with anyone else. I didn't even share it with my husband in the beginning, but I just started devouring ancient spiritual texts to modern day personal development books, and started to what I call reverse engineer happiness and prosperity. And what I discovered, 2 amazing things that I discovered. The very first thing that I discovered were that those myths that I had been living my life according to, again, to what society tells us we should be doing if we want to achieve anything, mm-hmm. I came to completely literally shift my mindset and bust those myths. And those are what I call life's biggest bullshifts. And again, we can have fun with that word, but they really are bull, you know what, because so many people live their life according to these myths, and it's these myths that shape our lives, and unfortunately, they actually prevent us from ever living our best lives and ever reaching our true potential. And if we want to transform our life, the very first step is to bust the myths that have been holding most of us back, for most of our lives. And so
Right.
That was the first step for me, and we can certainly talk about what those myths are if you'd like.
Well, let me just start with the one, because you said there's the three that you gave. The one that kind of stood out to me, and the one that I say, and I think that a lot of people say that they don't let bother them, is really something that I think eats at people, even though they claim that it doesn't bug them, is not giving a shift on what people think about you. We can say it till we're blue in the face that, I don't care what they think, but in the back of our mind, we're all on Facebook, we're all on Twitter, we're all hoping that we get some likes on things, and, even though we say we don't give a shift, we kind of do.
Well, and that's the problem, though, because when we do, we operate every moment of every day. We can be operating our lives through looking at life through the lens of the ego or the lens of love. And really, it's only those two choices. And so for my entire life was based on ego. It was based on accumulating outward material success to try to prove to the world that I was successful and that I was worthy. And, Bob, I was bullied horribly in middle school. And so I suffered from such feelings of shame and humiliation. And I had very little self-worth that what I didn't realize then was my desire to chase outward material success was to try to self-soothe myself and reclaim my dignity. But you can never reclaim your dignity by accumulating outward material success. And when I understood the difference between ego and love, I was able to look at life in a whole new way.
So it was able to work for you? You were able to make it work for you?
Absolutely, yes. And for the first time, I had a healing process because for the first time I was able to admit those feelings of shame and humiliation that had been buried under a cloud of disguise really for decades. It was something that caused me such shame that I didn't even talk about it. I really didn't even admit it to myself. But once I was able to, I was able to really heal myself on this process and this journey of self-transformation.
If you were to ask that 3-year-old daughter of yours this question, based on your life today, if they were to say, okay, Megan's daughter, what does your mommy do now? What would the answer be?
She would say that my mommy teaches people about love and the universe, and she is home all of the time. And that's one of my greatest joys, is that I actually get to be a mom now. I get to, most of the work that I do is from home, and it's when my children are in school. So my husband actually, realized the same thing, that he had been a workaholic. And so we are both blessed now to work from home. We co-parent our children. We used to have a live-in nanny who basically raised our children really for the time that she was here. And for the first time, we are co-parenting. We are actually raising our children. We put our children on the bus. And so it's a vastly different life than it was, for our family 2 years ago.
I was going to ask Megan how long it took. So it was a 2-year transformation. That's pretty quick turnaround.
To be honest with you, I've been doing this for 2 years, but the transformation was much, much quicker. And that's what I love about my process, Bob, is that people can realize results rather quickly. And you and I both know when someone is trying to accomplish a goal, no matter what it is, they have to experience even small victories along the way, because a 2-year time horizon is just too far out. And most people aren't willing to put in the work over 2 years before they start seeing results. So what I love most about my process is that it gets results fast. And what I mean by that is, so once I was able to shift my beliefs, right, and bust these bullshifts and put them off to the side, I looked at life with a new lens, and it was sort of like a clean slate. And I thought, okay, now what do I do, right? Now what does one do to reach their full potential and live life with purpose and passion and meaning? And so I started studying all of the people whom I admired, who seemed to have it all figured out, and dove into, I hacked into their abundance and their happiness and their prosperity. And I took a little bit from this person and a little bit from that, right? Because all of them have a system. They all have a process. They all have a methodology. It's not by accident that their lives turned out that way. they habitually follow a process. And so I, borrowed a little bit from this person, that person, this person, that person, and adopted the things, the methodologies that felt right for me and that worked for me. And I put them together in what I didn't know at the time. This all happened really just, I don't even know. It just sort of all fell into place. But I adopted and created this 10-step process. So I started practicing this process every day. And again, remember, I didn't tell anyone that this was even going on because I wasn't sure where the journey was going to go. And I didn't want to set myself up for, failure and disappointment. So once I started practicing these 10 steps, something miraculous happened. And that is that those around me, my family and very close friends, saw a difference in me rather quickly. And that's what I mean. You get results quickly with this methodology. And they asked what I was doing. They said, my God, Megan, you seem like a different person. You're lighter and brighter, and I've never seen you so happy. You have this aura about you. And I was sort of taken back because even though I felt it on the inside, I didn't realize it was so apparent on the outside. And so I started to then share it with those around me. And then the second miracle happened. And that is I was able to witness the transformation in them, also in a relatively short amount of time. And it was right then and there that I knew I had to share the process with the world, because if it could help even one other person get out of the darkness that I was living in and come into the light and experience life in this beautiful, blissful way, then it would have been worth it. And so what's really neat about my 10-step process, again, that's something that just fell into place. We talked about the title of my book early on, Give a Shift, and we talked about the meaning behind it. But here's the really cool thing. Give a Shift is 10 letters. And when I looked at my steps and I wrote them down, I was able to match them up with the letter in Give a Shift. So each letter in those words stands for a step in my exact process.
Wow. That's cool. I know that we had conversation on my radio program, and you didn't share that with me then. So that even makes this book even cooler, Megan. Now, let me ask you, before we get into the 10 steps, I want to ask this question about the people that you took this information from. Did you figure out, did they really have life figured out after you did some studying on them?
Well, they certainly they figured out the happiness part of it and the prosperity part of it. And those for me, and they also lived their life with meaning. Mm-hmm. And that was, it was sort of those three things that I looked at to see if they had it going on. So, someone like John Paul DeGioia, who's the founder of Paul Mitchell Salon and Patron Spirits, he went from homeless to now he's an actual billionaire. And I had the pleasure of meeting him, and he's one of the most remarkable human beings that I've ever met, and his light just shines. So yeah, he was one that I modeled, and I said, okay, what is it that he's doing? What did he do from going from homeless to billionaire? I'd like to know his secrets. I studied people like him. That's what I mean. Modern day contemporary people who seem to have it figured out. Even Oprah. I mean, if you ask Oprah what her beliefs are and the things that she does every day, mm-hmm. a lot of them are in my process, and a lot of them are she's a very spiritual person. And I also studied people like the Dalai Lama and, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who was the founder of transcendental meditation. And I also studied quantum physics. My father is a quantum physicist. And so, when I started to get into really what life is and how life happens and how we can tap into our true potential, it led me down the science path as well, because it wasn't enough for me to just sort of be told these things or figure them out. I needed to know why these things work. I needed to understand the meaning behind it. And that led me to quantum physics. So a lot of my teaching involves the why the things I say work, and with evidence of a scientific evidence.
All right, so let's go over the letters. You said that all 10 letters end up being your 10 basic simple steps to an abundant life. So Give a Shift is the name of the book. So you can just start with the G?
Yeah, G. G stands for give gratitude. And that's a big one, because gratitude is one of those words that is familiar to all of us, yet awkwardly foreign at the same time. So what I mean by that is we've all heard of gratitude, of being grateful, right? But most of us save gratitude for life's big events. So, we only find ourselves giving gratitude to things that warrant our gratitude, that make us stop and appreciate something that has happened, like getting a new job or buying a home or finding the love of your life or a new baby. And that's what I call a conveniently grateful life. And that's where most people live. And that's where I lived, before this whole transformation. But when we learn how to live a deliberately grateful life, miracles just start surfacing right in front of our eyes. And those are the little things that happen all day long that so many of us, because we just race through life at 100 miles an hour, are oblivious to, right? So literally stopping and smelling the roses, stopping and seeing the beauty all around us, and the miracle of nature, the sweet sound of a children's voice, the sound of laughter. When we are aware of these things and all day long we stop and give gratitude to them, what we find is that more and more things show up in our lives to be grateful for. So one of my favorite sayings is, the more you are grateful for what you have, the more you will have to be grateful for. So living a deliberately grateful life is step number one in my process. And I teach people how to do it, because there's one thing to say, go be grateful, but how do you rewire your brain? So each of these steps offers a instruction for how to practice these things and incorporate them into your life.
All right, that's G. Sounds like it's a good one. So give gratitude. I. What's the I?
I is incorporate meditation. So here's the thing with meditation. Before this journey, I was very much a type A, overworked entrepreneur, and who wouldn't stop all day long. And so when I had heard of meditation in the past, I immediately brushed it off. I immediately said, there's no way my overactive brain could ever quiet down. There's no way my overactive lifestyle could ever stop and pause for 20 minutes twice a day in order to meditate. And yet, time and time again, meditation was the secret ingredient in all of these people's lives. And I thought, you know what? I have to stop, and I've got to investigate meditation. And I also need to lose my preconceived notions that meditation, I always associated meditation with, like, the hippies of the 70s,
Right,
and I had to let that go and look at it in a whole new way. And so I went on this exploration of meditation. And by the way, there are many different types of meditation. So I went through and tried a variety of meditations, and I just kept trying them until I found the one that was right for me, which happened to be something called transcendental meditation. And it is like my magic wand. Transcendental meditation is literally like a magic wand that I have in my tool belt, and I can pull out whenever. I meditate twice a day religiously, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, and it has been one of the very best things I've ever done. So while not everyone needs to do TM, as it's called, I do, urge everyone to explore meditation. I help people through, understanding the different types, and I give them resources so that they can try the various types until they find the one that's right for them. But we all need to meditate, even for 5 minutes a day, if that's where we need to start.
Well, that whole 20-minute thing, I use that as my drive into work in the morning and my drive home from work in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Does that not count?
No, but here's the deal. That's a very interesting point, and we can talk about this. So again, I shared every blessed detail about my personal transformation in this book. I didn't just share the things that I thought sounded good. Mm-hmm. So what I did at the end, after I went through all 10 steps, I thought, you know what? People are going to wonder how I do all 10 steps every day. They're going to wonder how they can find the time to do all 10 steps every single day. So one of the chapters is literally a day in the life of Megan Smith Gill, and I walk people through how and where they can incorporate these steps. And basically what it comes down to, Bob, is exactly what you just said. It's taking time that we already have and using those minutes that otherwise went to unproductive activities and using them to our advantage. So those 20 minutes each way, Bob, no, you can't meditate because you have to have your eyes closed. So I wouldn't suggest meditating unless you have a driver. And by the way, I do meditate in the car when I'm not the one driving. But if you're behind the wheel, don't meditate then. But you can use those 20 minutes. You can use those 20 minutes to practice some of the other steps. And I don't mean to get ahead, but one of them is, foster continuous learning, right? That's the F, and I'm going out of order. But the point is that, use those 20 minutes to learn something new by listening to an audiobook or a podcast, both ways. It will change your life.
Well, see, now you're throwing out the F word to focus on continual learning. Hey, we're just trying to have a little bit of fun here. So V, visualize what you want, and you could actually use that for the drive.
You can use that for the drive as well. A lot of these steps, most of them. You think about the time when you're grocery shopping, or at least for me, I'm sitting there literally pushing my cart. I'm mindful of some of my steps. I practice them while I grocery shop. I practice them while I am running the kids back and forth to activities, right? I practice them in the shower. I mean, we all shower for 10, 20 minutes every day. And most of us do what in the shower? If we shower in the morning, we fret about what we need to do that day. If we shower in the evening, we look back on our day and fret about all the things we didn't get done. And so rather than using those minutes to, manifest negative experiences, I help people use those minutes to their advantage so they can do their gratitude ritual in the shower, or they can do their visualizations, or they can do their affirmations. But the best part about my process that everyone loves is that aside from meditating, which is, a little bit of extra time, every other step can be incorporated into time you already use. You're just not using it in the most productive way.
Interesting. So we got GIV. What's the E?
E is engage in daily affirmations. And this one is interesting because, again, I had my own preconceived notions about a lot of these things because some of them I had heard about, obviously. And affirmations was one of those things. I don't know if it was because of, what was that, Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, yep. Isn't it Stuart Smalley? Gosh darn it, I'm the best me that I can be. Blah, blah,
That's
blah.
Right. And I was like, you know what? I'm a successful businesswoman. I have a master's degree. I'm not going to engage in something as silly as affirmations, right? I like to include affirmations. But when you get down to it, that's another secret ingredient. And if the proof is in the pudding and the evidence is right in front of me, I decided to let go of my stereotype and give it a try. And I will tell you, it works because our thoughts have vibrations, right? And I needed to know why it worked, not just that people were using affirmations and they were working for them. The reason they work is because thoughts have a vibrational frequency. Everything in the universe is made of energy. And so even your thoughts carry a vibrational frequency. And the two most powerful words are I am. And it's all over, ancient spiritual texts. It's in, religious texts. But the words I am signal out to whatever you call that intelligent power that created everything. Use your own word for it. The words that follow I am are really powerful, and they send a really strong signal, and they carry a very high vibration. And so that's why affirmations work. So when you start saying things like I am whatever it is that you want to be, not only are you resonating the vibrational frequency, but you're telling your subconscious, right? You're changing the paradox. So many of us have this paradox that we're not even aware of that's buried in our subconscious that is literally like a program that was handed down to us by our parents and through our environment that we were raised in. And usually it's pretty set in stone, by the time someone is 5, 6, 7 years old. So when we grow up, we're not even aware of these paradoxes. And so affirmations work to change the paradox that's buried in your subconscious. So when that happens, that's when true transformation can begin, because the mind doesn't know the difference between real or make-believe. So when you say things like I am, present tense, and whatever it is you want to be, your body starts believing it, and your subconscious starts to change the paradox. Well,
then once you engage in those daily affirmations, then you can articulate those daily affirmations to those around you, right?
Absolutely. And they start showing evidence. And what's amazing is that people will start asking you instead of you having to share it with them, because you'll start to see the manifestation of these things begin to appear in your life. And so that's really when it gets fun.
We've gotten through give A. Now you got to work on the word shift. So what's the S in shift then?
This is one of the biggest out of all 10, Bob. And the S stands for stop the negativity. And when you think about it, that is something that all of us should learn how to do, because we are, as a society, inundated with negative experiences all around us all day long. And the problem is that because we are inundated with negativity, we become immune to it so that we're not even aware of its presence. It's sort of just like we accept it and without even realizing it. What I teach people about negativity is a couple of things. First of all, when I say that, what do you instantly think of when I say stop the negativity? We must do what?
It must be complaining about something or sad about something. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, well, most people think of negative media when I say that, right? And
so I work for the media, so I don't think of it as negative media.
And so most people think they need to, shut off the negative news programs that maybe they were watching that draws so many people in, right? It's sort of like it draws us in. But negativity is more than just negativity in the media. And you're right, it's exactly what you said. It comes in the form of judgment of yourself or other people, complaining, criticism, all of these other things. And so I take people through what I call a negativity assessment, and I have them monitor the negative experiences that they either come into contact with or that they're responsible for creating themselves over a 1-week period. And listen to this. It is not unheard of that most people record a number of around 1,000 negative experiences per week that they were previously unaware of. And so when you're surrounded by or responsible for creating that much negativity, there's no way you could ever reach your full potential and live your best life, because you're just going to stay in that negative space. No matter how hard you work, you will be unable to break through if you keep, surrounding yourself with negativity. So that's the S, and that is a really important step.
Well, that sounds like a huge step there, Megan. So in order to stop the negativity, if you turn that frown upside down, I'm pulling out cliches, but I'm assuming then the next thing is to help others overcome some of that stuff?
Yeah, good job. Perfect way to, segue into the H, which is help and serve as many people as possible. So, a lot of what I share in this book is the good, the bad, and the ugly about my beliefs, like I've alluded to, and some of my false beliefs and the way I used to live my life and what my priorities were versus how they are today. So, I never prioritized helping and serving. Was I kind? Yes, but I was kind on my time. I put myself first, right? And I would help others only when time allowed. And what I've come to discover is that when you put other people before you and you focus on giving, the universe responds in magnificent ways, and you get more than you ever could have if you put yourself first. So helping and serving as many people as possible not only helps them, but it helps you too.
You're not the first person to say that. Most successful people that I've talked with, Megan, say the exact same thing.
And it's true. They say it because it's true. Absolutely, 100%. And I didn't realize it and did not live my life that way for many, many years. But it has been a secret ingredient that has helped completely transform my own life. So I know its power.
The next letter is I. What does the I stand for?
I stand for invest in intentional thought. So what I didn't realize that I realize now is that our thoughts literally shape our reality, right? One of my favorite quotes is from Buddha, and he said, what we think, we become. And I was not aware of that. I sort of was the type of person that, as long as my actions were appropriate, then I thought it mattered little what I was thinking on the inside. But I had no idea that our realities, our present reality, is the result of our past thinking. And when we can truly understand that, we can truly understand how our thoughts can create any life we want. When we know how to use them to manifest what we hope to achieve, rather than just allowing our thoughts to sort of control us, day in and day out.
So it's kind of like those positive affirmations kind of coming back in and working toward your future then with those affirmations.
Right, exactly. They all go hand in hand, but thoughts become things is something that if your listeners could just walk away with one phrase, That would be the magic phrase. Thoughts become things. And again, it's something I paid little attention to in the past. And, I juxtapose that with the saying, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, right? We were all raised to believe that that's true. But the problem with that is that makes us think, and again, that's that paradox that I'm telling you is buried deep within all of us that we have to change. But that one implies that it doesn't matter. It's okay if you think the negative thing as long as you don't say it out loud, right? That's what those words of wisdom that our mother and our grandmothers told us. But that's just not true because it's really at the thinking level that produces our reality.
Interesting concept there. We talked about the F word earlier, but let's hit it again so that way we know that we're kind of in that same give a shift. The F in the shift is what again?
The F word is foster continuous learning. So, the way I approached continuous learning when I was, a workaholic overachiever was that I just thought I should read books, but I'll read them when I had time, which was never. So I would start a couple of books and get one chapter in and never finish them because I was just, too busy to possibly read. But learning something new every single day is such a key to success, and it's something that all abundant, affluent, prosperous people do, and they make a commitment to it. And so I discovered the beautiful world of podcasts and audiobooks. And so a lot of that time that goes, used to go unused or wasted to, thinking and fretting about all these other things, I now take advantage of. And even if it's 5 minutes a day, not a day goes by where I don't, learn something new in some way, shape, or form.
It's BSing with Bob podcast. Mark it down, save it, listen to it.
Megan said to listen to it every day.
And then transmit feelings of love. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So love is, again, sort of like gratitude. It's one of those words that we all know, we're familiar with. But the problem is that we don't really take the time to understand its true power. And so it's one of those words that is both overused and underused. And so let me tell you what I mean by that. Overused in that the word love has become synonymous with, like a lot. So I love that shirt. I love this food. I love that flower. I love all these things. And that really means like a lot. So we say it all the time, but we don't say it in the way that it's supposed to be used. And so it's overused in that respect, but it's underused because when it comes down to offering feelings of love, Bob, we are so guarded. We feel like most people feel like there's this, limited supply of their love that they can only give to certain people who are worthy of deserving it. And what I want everyone to understand is that literally love truly does heal all. And it begins with learning to love yourself, which is something that I had to learn to do. And when I was able to admit those feelings of shame and humiliation, learning to love myself was the very first step. Once I loved myself through and through, I then had the power to love as many people as I come into contact with. So literally all day long, I'm offering feelings of love to complete strangers. If I'm driving a car and I see someone walking, I offer feelings of love to that person because it's one of the highest quality vibrations you can ever put out into the universe. There's a book that I love called Power versus Force by David Hawkins. And in it, he can calibrate the energy, the vibration of all sorts of things, whether they're emotions like love or feelings, but also books, also people. It's a fascinating read. And one of the things that he has determined is that one person vibrating on the frequency of love, which is, again, the highest level you can calibrate at, has enough power to overcome the negative vibration of 750,000 people. If more people knew of love's true power, then we could collectively and literally change the world. And, it sounds grandiose and it sounds pie in the sky, but it can happen. And that's literally my goal, is to raise the consciousness of the planet. And love is really the only way to do it.
Megan Smith Gill, author of Give a Shift. We had the opportunity to go through and find out what each of the letters of the book mean. I do have a question for you about failure. Should failure be avoided, you think, Megan?
No, not at all. Failure needs to be embraced rather than feared. That's the difference. Failure is nothing more than you being one step closer to your full potential. It's part of the journey. I mean, even negative experiences that you encounter, no matter how painful you think that they are, there's something in there that there's a reason why that happened. It's something you're supposed to learn from it. I mean, in the beginning of my book, I have a thank you letter to my bullies. It literally says, dear bullies, thank you. I want to take this time to tell you how appreciative I am of the experience that happened to me, because looking back, I'm now able to see it has led me to be in a space where I finally am living a purpose-filled life and making a difference in this world and having a blast doing it. I would never have gotten here had it not been for that experience. And so failure is something that needs not be feared, but rather people should look for the hidden opportunity in the failure and look at it as them being one step closer to reaching their full potential.
How were you able to quit a 7-figure job to go on your personal quest?
Great question. My husband and I made a lot of sacrifices in order for me to pursue my dream. So he left his corporate job and he joined me in the marketing agency that I was running. And I slowly began to transition out of it into pursuing everything as it relates to Give a Shift. And now he runs the agency and I am, again, pursuing my dream. It didn't come without some casualties though. I mean, there were plenty of clients who were used to having me and only me. And if they didn't have me, they were going to leave. And so that 7-figure income was significantly impacted. And we knew that would happen. And together we decided that it was more important for me to, my work changes people's lives. I see what it does. I know what it did for me, and I see what it does to the people that I teach this process to. I awaken people from the darkness that they don't even know they're in and give them an opportunity to live their best life. And what could be a better reward for that? So I used to make money the end, right? Like that was my end goal, was the money. Now it's the means to the end. So I've got a bigger purpose above and beyond the money, but the money is now coming because I'm so focused on delivering value that the money is secondary, but it flows. And all of these steps, if acquiring additional wealth is one of the goals you have, all of these steps, I promise, will help you do just that. The only other thing I would say is that I'm a contributor on medium.com, which is that blog platform. And so if they want to read any of my articles, they can search for me on medium.com.
Give a Shift, 10 Simple Steps to an Abundant Life. Megan Smith Gill, the author. Megan, how do we get the book?
You can get the book for free. All I ask is that you pay for shipping and handling. And you can go right over to giveashift.live. That's LIVE, giveashift.live/free book. And right there, you can just put in your shipping information and I'll send the book right out to you.
Awesome. How do people find you if they have more questions?
More questions about me? It's Megan, MEGAN, at megansmithgill.com. And I would love to hear from any of your listeners to let me know if anything we talked about resonated, if they have any questions, or frankly, if they're just going to tell me that they hated the entire interview. Reach out. Let me know. I am always looking for ways that I can improve. So whatever it is you want to say to me, I'm open ears.
Megan, thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
The BSing with Bob Schmidt podcast is brought to you by Orange Computer. Find them online at orangecomputerlax.com.
This has been another podcastforhire.com production.